Record and then start. Go.
Welcome to The Leads Are Shit, a real estate magazine podcast. And here we are with the owner of Real Estate Magazine, Andrew Foliato, also the founder of Just Sell Homes, which is a real estate marketing company for realtors who just want to sell homes. And like me, actually. And my name is Taylor. I'm a real estate team leader in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, who's always loving to talk to people about the industry. I hang out with some of the top people. I argue the top realtors in the world. Like, good luck finding people better than Andy C. and Glenda Baker. And uh, here in Canada, Justin Conoco, just a killer. There's a lot
Yep.
of people that we get to bring in here. We brought Anthony Brown previously. And we also like hanging out with you. And here you are. We have a studio audience, as we call it, which is everybody and their dog's AI bots. Please, you feel free to send yours, right?
AI bots aren't that many today. I don't know what changed. If there's like
They're
a
late. Oh,
yeah,
here they
oh
are.
there now here it comes. Yeah. Just as I said it, it's like the timing hit and now it's just
Yeah,
auto
they are
AI, auto AI,
programmed
auto.
for
Yeah.
exactly start
One
time.
minute. So it's one
And
minute after. That must be it. It's 1 minute after the
oh,
AI's like, I'm joining the meeting. Because yeah, they
mhm.
just filled out, just like tripled the amount of people we had on the attendee
So
list.
we love that you get our notes.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. And feel free to participate. Like you can show up here, meaning that
Yeah.
there are people
Live.
right now that are going to get into the chat and say who they are and where they're from, because
Yep.
there's other realtors that are working on the same things that we're working on, which is the edge of marketing and sales. That's like where the catalyst is. That's where the action happens.
And
How's it going, Andrew?
today, good. We got some breaking news, 2 o'clock. You want to talk
Breaking
about it?
news, 2 o'clock live from the owner of Real Estate Magazine.
Yeah. We got this news under embargo. There's now the embargo at 2 o'clock listed. Don Kotick, new president of Remax Canada. So, Remax team lead, what do you think?
Well, I liked Christopher Alexander, right? Like when we talk about the past president, he was real estate royalty. He's a member of the Polzer family that owns Remax Europe. Like he is the lineage
He's
of
in
some great
Europe right now for
leaders.
meetings there.
Yeah, of some great leaders, and he was an awesome leader and a very accessible president. Like I had lunch with him in Toronto when I brought my team there. He showed us the new headquarters for Remax Canada. So you could talk to him in other places. You could talk to him one on one. You could talk to him you could have him on a stage. He did quite a few things, and that really worked. On the other side, who we're getting now is coming from another real estate brand, right?
Yeah.
Like Don's from
Sotheby's.
Sotheby's.
Yeah, he was CEO of Sotheby's. And he's been at Royal LePage, he's been Peerage, he's been all over the place.
And I follow CEOs. I also follow Formula One racing, and there's some similarities. Like most CEOs, they really do have a shelf life of a couple years. Like if
Yeah.
they're not producing, 6 years is a long run for any CEO in a given position because they have targets they have to relentlessly hit. Um, and doing it at such leverage, meaning the people that are actually doing the work don't have a lot of meetings with you directly. It's all
Mhm.
leading through people. So we can see that he has that, right? He's done it at other big brands in Canada. He has a Canadian perspective. He's worked with American companies like Sotheby's. So I can definitely see why he made that pedigree.
Yeah. And he when he so like REM covered that he resigned from Sotheby's earlier this week, and my phone basically blew up, and everyone was either guessing Remax job or the Aria CEO. And the Remax one definitely made more sense. Um, so I was texting some people at Remax, being like, "So is Dawn about to be announced?" And a lot of no comments, or I've also heard that rumor. Um, but it sounds like not many people actually knew for sure that's where he's going to end up. But so funny with Dawn, I don't have a lot of experience with him. All positive. When I bought REM, he was actually the first CEO to call me and take me out for lunch. So that was when I got to know Don. So we went out, we had lunch in Toronto. Super nice guy, knew the industry really well. So like similar to how you're talking about like Chris being approachable, Don very much is like really easy guy to have a lunch with and chat and should be good. I don't have a lot of like direct experience working with him, but I know Jordana, who's the editor from always has good things to say about him. So she was excited for him to get the job because He apparently is very good at providing quotes and feedback and stuff like that, which for her is important,
So he was the first one to notice you switched the lights on.
pretty much. Her first one to try to book a meeting after.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Is like
yeah,
he not only took notice, he took action before everybody else.
yeah.
Well, I
It was
gotta say
good.
that that's probably how most people that wear my brand jersey feel about Remax.
Yeah,
Is we would really like to see some action. That's something that we're definitely seeing among our competitors. We know what makes our value, right?
yeah,
But I think that there's a few people that are looking for our brand to really make some pushes forward.
yeah. I'm curious, and this is I don't actually have an answer for, is how much leeway he's going to have versus like what Denver, which is the Remax headquarters, lets him do. Um, I have
I
no
wonder
idea
if it's
what that.
leeway or feedback. Because,
Yeah,
like,
I'd be
what we
curious.
want is someone who gives good feedback so they can understand that we are more than a 51st state.
Yeah. Well, I was actually talking with someone earlier this week that they better hire a Canadian to do it if they want to, because it's a bad time to be putting an American in charge here.
I can definitely understand with the perception. I just want somebody who can play.
Yeah,
You
at
know, like
the end of the day, that's what you want.
at the global CEO level, we've seen a couple of people that aren't able to play. And that's what I'm wondering is now we have a new CEO or a CEO that's in his first couple of years of Remax globally. Now he's putting in a president that makes sense.
No.
So all eyes are on Remax to see how this goes.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting next little bit. See, because we got that coming up. We also in Ontario have the Ontario Real Estate Association CEO's open. The Real Estate Council Ontario CEO position is open. So there's a lot of leadership changes coming. So
Mhm.
be interesting to see kind of where everything ends up. But let's dive into the actual like important part today for us, marketing, because that's more interesting. So Taylor and I chatted briefly ahead of time. Today we're so for those who don't know, Taylor has an insider list, and we're going to be talking about growing it, kind of the approach he's taking today, ways we can adjust it, but basically the goal is dive deeper into that for Taylor and his business. So maybe to start,
Let's go wide angle here.
yeah,
So one of the ways to make appointments is to start with an email list. The reason you want an email list is because then you don't have to pay the gatekeeper to talk to that audience. So if you're on social media, even if you do have people that you're targeting using their email, you're paying the gatekeeper like a toll road every time you go that way. Whereas if you can convert them, even if they're not a sales qualified lead, if they're still a marketing qualified lead, if you can take them off platform to an email list, the conversion is going to be more likely
yeah.
and you get to talk to them more at lower cost.
And you can time it. Like this is my problem with social, and I still like social a lot, is you're at the mercy of the algorithm. Like you don't know when it's going to show it to them. Like there's a challenge with like a reel. Like it's hard to do a time sensitive reel because someone might not see it for 2 weeks. Like you have reels that start doing like they're like okay at the beginning, and then out of nowhere, like a week or two later, at 1,000 views. You're like, where'd that come from? But like my reel is about something that happened already. So
Yes. So
email
imagine
you
that you're
control.
using something like a coming soon, but the time it gets to
Yeah,
your audience, that property is already pending.
yeah, exactly.
It still kind of works because if they inquire on that, you get the
Yeah, flipping
opportunity
to
to
something
kind of
else.
work it with it so you can work that. But wouldn't it be better if you could time everything for when it's going to hit?
Yeah,
Well, now you're at the level of control of email.
yeah, and I like to know exactly what time it's going on. So like my CRM, for example, with our email has something called predictive sending, which is like and I hate that. I like the idea behind of like we're gonna send it when we think they're most likely to open it. I'm like, no, no, I want to make sure it's here at a specific time. 'Cause I have goals with it. Um, because I want people like with the news, I want them to kind of like be able to read it with the breakfast table, right? Because a lot of that's kind of that thing is like you're having your coffee in the morning, you read the news. So we make sure it's going out around that when we think most people that's kind of around when they're going to do that. And we want to make sure it's there before they get to the office. So even if now their day starts at like 9 and they're reading, it's already ready for them.
So that's the effect that you want is to make something worth reading and then to place it at the right time.
Yeah,
So think of when people go to their phones. They go to their phones when they're having coffee. That's what we think because that is what you see on commercials. They go to their phone when they go to the bathroom. All
it's a big
right.
one.
And you're more likely to score an email in the bathroom because a lot of people aren't going to turn on the volume. Email is silent.
Public bathrooms, yes. In the office.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
But
at home it's different.
so think about the people that think about the times that people glance at stuff like this
Yeah,
when they've got an extra couple of minutes or because this is on their mind. Now, my market is doing different things than most markets right now. My market is hot. So, in a hot market, I'm going to use property because it's rare. When my market wasn't hot, I would be building a list on other things. So, when the market isn't hot, people are really interested in foreclosures. Most people are not good buyers for foreclosures. It doesn't mean it's not good bait. The
yeah,
realtor that eventually explains to them that they're not risk tolerant enough for foreclosures is still going to help them,
yeah.
right?
That's the
Like,
biggest thing we notice when we've done foreclosure lists is it's a very different type of person who opts in on that too than like if like for example, I know what your ideal client is of like the families. Like families aren't really opting in on foreclosures and doing that. Like it's
and it's
they
not my
might
preferred client.
yeah, they hate it.
So here's what I've seen or what I've used as the core of my business.
Yeah,
Understand your market to know who can win, right? And then go and reveal it to them with a plan.
yeah,
So if you are in a buyer's market, who can win? Buyers. Well, buyers are rare, right? That's why it's a buyer's market. Supply is outweighing demand. Well,
yeah,
there are some people that would be the demand if they just weren't afraid of the news. You have to get to that conversation so that you can win it. So what I did in a buyer's market is I went and found families that needed like additional bedrooms. They needed to move for lifestyle reasons,
yeah,
but I was there to show them that it could still be good business. Because if you're buying more than you're selling, you are a buyer in a buyer's market. You should be upgrading now. If the stock market is now down, it's a buyer's market because if you buy, you're getting it on the deal and you expect it to kind of roll up.
yeah,
So that was like a big part of the down market. So if I was building a list in a down market, I would be building it on that premise to be like to talk to families about their struggles and then I would reveal to them that they could actually win.
yeah.
So I
And
might
I
make an
mean,
email list on organizing or on storage solutions.
I would
Make
still have an insider list like you're talking about, even in a down market though. Like
okay.
maybe the frequency of it is a little bit different. Maybe the angle I'm taking, but I think there's still value in for them becoming that because like we know it's a down market, but there's still like for people wanting to in, they still want to have access to those things they may not otherwise. And even in a lot of down markets, the perfect home will still sell quickly, right? Like that home
Hmm.
that everyone wants. So you can be like, if because you're not paying as much attention because homes aren't moving as fast, but you still don't want to miss on that one that does come up.
Hmm.
And then there's the other side of it of like all those people on that list would move for the right home. So they're a little bit more passive. So they reach out to you to be like, I'm interested in that one. And then now you find out about their home and be like, I can now be telling people I got a buyer for this type of home. Like if they reach out, there I got someone. And you kind of can play like you're almost playing both sides of here of like, I have this group available. Let's run with it. So like I would still in a down market do the VIP list, but then maybe I'm adding other parts to the VIP thing too. Like I'm finding ways to provide them other value in there.
Hmm.
But I'm always looking for those opportunities.
So I also what I'm hearing from you is that you're going to develop a list and then learn more about them and branch out.
Yeah, first party data. I mean, that's what we call it on the REM side, but basically as much as we can learn about someone, the better. And like this is where knowing what's important to them during the process and just adjusting the message a little bit for that. But I think always having that ability to be like, I'm going to give you things because it's not just the actual act of I'm trying to get the leads out of it. It's the branding of I'm making sure that you feel special by getting advanced access. So even if no deals necessarily straight happen because of the list for a while. That branding in their head of he's got my back and giving me things I can't get anywhere else.
And if you're in people's inboxes, you are relevant to them.
Yeah,
So even if they skip by your email, it's something that lands over and over again
yeah,
that you're active in real estate right
yeah,
now. And over
yeah,
time, that frequency of familiarity is the know in know like trust.
yeah. And I mean that does develop into the trust side too. It's like that consistently, like I can't like when I started just sell homes, like the amount of times I heard stuff like people saw me start it, and then at like year three is when sales got a lot easier because there was a lot of yeah, I was following around just to make sure you kind of stuck around and you're still going to be in this business. Seems like you are. I'm ready. Let's go. So it's like that.
Using time as a filter.
Yeah, because most people, they're going to be out of the business in any business in 2 years. Same with real estate. Like real estate's no different. Then by five, most of them are going to be at like five. Then that's when it also started going. Um, of like, okay, yeah, you've been around enough. We can talk. So it works pretty well just to have that there. So there's that consistency of I'm going to be in your inbox, and it works. And it's finding those little pieces that, and this is actually like, and similar, like we've talked about it for your newsletter is why that like the puppy of the week works so well, even though it shouldn't. Is like people are like, yeah, it comes every week. Some weeks I just don't feel like reading it, but I'll open it for the puppy. And then this headline caught my eye, and then I'm like, yeah, it did. Gotcha. So it's like, what can you put in that they'll find interesting, um, and then just keep pushing it through. But I mean, I want to talk about like growth of the list today, especially because that's where most people need help. Like it's one thing to like there's two parts to this. Obviously, you got to provide good content, but you got to get it in front. Like you need people to have it in front of.
Hmm.
So why don't we start with what are you doing now to get people on the list?
Okay. Um, so maybe I can just talk for a quick second about what the list gets.
Yeah,
So the insiders list gets inside information before that 72-hour rule that limits us with our coming soon. Now, I can only do that publicly, but then moving to this email list gives me that advantage. So we get to send them notices, and as early as we can send them is when we sign stuff.
yeah,
So we're going to send them something that says, "Hey, we have a new listing coming in Otwell." So we're just going to tell them a general area because we're asking them to raise their hands and say, "Hey, I'm interested in that." So general information. And then as the listing gets closer to coming to the market, we make announcements. So we look at it like location, characteristics, and then pricing. So the location, we'll talk a little bit about the neighborhood. So it's coming in Otwell. This is the last 90 days in Otwell. Average days on the market is this. So we kind of like set expectations, or I like to say setting the scene.
yeah.
And then we make announcements on what we're bringing to the market. We're bringing a bungalow. Here's some features and stuff like that. Because again, we're hoping that people will raise their hands. And then the third is that the last one is we do a pricing announcement. What we're going to build in the future is a contest off that so that you can guess the list price and guess the outcome because we want to draw more attention to the outcomes that we're bringing people as part of being on this list so that they will know us and like us because we're creating value.
You can even gamify that of like closest without going over or
Yeah,
something like
Price
that.
is Right rules. That's like the only
Yeah.
rules that you go, right?
Closest and you get $10 gift card or something or $20 or something that's like get X card.
Mm,
Actually, right on that topic because it's email. I was talking to Ravi Singh, who you know.
yeah.
Um,
Ravi
he
from
was
Richmond.
saying he was getting like an 88% open rate on his emails. And it's because he started doing giveaways in them. Like he was like, yeah, just Mr. Beasted it. It was just like someone who opens it and clicks on this is gonna get an iPad. They're gonna take us to the Raptors, take it to the Leafs. I'm just gonna every month take X budget and just say we're gonna send this out.
Talk to somebody about or talk about somebody who's a great community builder.
Yeah.
Ravi does so much business and his community is very thriving and he's very deep in it. And so I could definitely understand, like everybody already wants to kind of hear from Ravi, and then he
Yeah.
could just spice it up and get people to talk about it with a little bit of well, contests and prizes, man. Everybody loves prizes.
Well, do you know how he got started? Like before real estate,
Hmm.
he was a club promoter. That was one of his
Oh.
things, right? So like he's just that natural. I'm getting out. I'm building community. I'm getting people to come out and spend
Well, he's
time
also
with
a
me.
musician. He's an incredible
Yeah.
drummer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I imagine that that kind of goes hand in hand where you'd be looking for venues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all part of the that world.
Hmm.
He did all right.
And yeah, but great when you carry a network that's been defined over time like that, it's a very different game of real estate. What we're
Yeah.
talking about is making an email list that's going to work for outreach and nurturing. So getting people to the email list is what we're going to talk about next, which is outreach. And then there's always a few questions about like how do you do this? Really,
Yeah.
you can start doing this in your CRM and then add something to it. There's a lot of people that are like, don't mass email from your CRM because when people opt out of that, that's like a base foundation level opt out. Whereas if you use an additional system like I use SendGrid, then we can control how they opt out into different emails as opposed to into every communication. So there's some things that you can kind of get into
Yeah. And
deeper.
that's even CRM
Start
specific, right? Like
anywhere.
my CRM, if you opt out, it opts you out of that mailing list. But I'll have
Mhm.
like you might be on 8 different lists for me. So and then like they do have the option to kind of choose which lists they come off of. But
But
you
that
can
option
also,
is not available in most CRMs.
yeah,
So
it's
like most real
different.
estate CRMs are
Yeah.
not going to have individual mailing lists to opt out of. So
It's because
learn
most
more
realtors
about
don't have
that.
multiple lists.
Yeah, learn more about that. But in
Yeah.
the beginning, just get started. Just like
Yeah.
develop it in a system that you can use. You can even do this out of a Google Sheet, uh, and then make it happen. So now that we talked about what the insiders list gets, they get advance notice on stuff that's coming to the market. We have a great database. We bring good listings. So this is what I'm trying to draw to. But
Yeah.
now, how do you get people on the list? So when we're looking at ways we can promote this, what we've been doing is we ran a couple of different ads.
Yeah.
So I ran an ad that was like a notepad, and it was talking about finding out about listings before they hit the market as like a way to effectively buy a house in this spring. We talked about doing a video. I haven't been able to deploy that yet.
Yep.
And so right now, my insiders list is a limited list. We have a big database that we talk to about coming soon listings that has been a big part of our marketing, but this insiders list needs to grow. I'm around a dozen people.
So have you sent an email to the full list saying we have this insiders, would you like to join it?
No.
So that's what, so like here's there's two approaches for this, and I've done both. And similar results, so I wouldn't say like it's one's necessarily way better than the other. Is so the first one's simple, just in your regular emails, start promoting it. And it's like the first couple, it's there. Actually, there's three main ways to do it. So that's one. The other is saying, just like we have this, I'm going to start sending it. Click here to opt out. That's where you need the individual list opt out option
Mm.
available. The other option, which can work really well, is you just send them an edition of the insider list. And at the beginning, it says, here's a preview of something we send to our list so you can see. I'm only going to send it to you this one time. Click here to keep getting it. So it's they actually get an idea of what's coming. That's another way to do it. But I like the like for you, I would do like regular ads in my newsletter. I talk about it on social. Like I would preview the next announcement and like Instagram stories, right? So it's like, hey, we just signed a new listing. Details are going out tomorrow to our insider list. If you're not on it, reply with your email and I'll add you to it before it goes out.
Okay, so we've done a couple of those. That's how we got
Yep.
our 11. In the beginning, I'm like, holy crap, here they are. But it turns out
Yeah.
that there was a group and now we got them.
Yeah. That
And then we
always
also
happens.
put it as a banner on our website.
Yep.
And then we drive traffic off of realtor.ca, as you know. So when we launch listings, it says visit the realtor's website, and then they hit that website, they go to the property page, and there's a section of the property page that talks about becoming an insider.
Yep. And do you get
Uh,
opt-ins on that?
we got a dozen people.
Yeah.
So
Well, how much like do you know like which like it doesn't statistically it's not significant enough
we're
to
not
really
there
pull
yet.
data.
So
Yeah,
we're starting to
yeah,
raise our flag and see who salutes, but it's not driving enough flow yet.
yeah,
So we got to keep going until we can start to say like, okay, this works. So the emailing our database, I feel as though that's going to be a big win. I'm excited to report back on how that
yeah,
goes.
yeah. That one's
Knowing our
very easy.
database, I'm going to do a preview of the email,
Yeah,
or I'm going to do an email that talks about the problem. Like, hey, and talks about the fact that it's not just for them, it's for the people they know. There's other people around that are shopping for properties. Most people are just like desperately waiting on realtor.ca to refresh.
yeah. So what you can do there, it's like that email that you send out to your list, include a line that's like, have a friend you think would find this valuable for the email, and they can click here to
Hmm.
add themselves to the list. So it's
Oh,
like
it's on the screen.
it's reminding them to forward it to people they know that might want it. So like we did that for a while with REM, like have someone in your office you think would find value for this email and they can opt in to get it here. Or we tried, and this one actually works slightly better. Was this email forwarded to you? Click here to start getting it yourself.
Whew.
And then it's just like a little piece in there that adds in extra ones from time to time. It's not going to be a huge like driver of extra traffic. But because especially in your case where people are in the market, that's what a lot of the conversations are about. They're going to end up talking to more people in the market. And then if they see something come up that someone else has mentioned they've been looking for, but it's not for them, they're going to take and be like, oh, you're going to want to reach out about this one.
And everybody's talking real estate, so it's
Yeah.
hot.
Yeah, that's what's so like real estate's that perfect thing for newsletters because it's like every is what I always say to agents, like if you just go to like a party and just start talking to people, the conversation always comes back to real estate at some point. You don't have to like try and like get fancy and guide a conversation. At some point it's going to come up what you do, and at some point someone's probably going to say, how's the market?
Totally. And that's
And,
their litmus test
yeah.
because
And
they're
then
like,
you
how's
jump
the
in.
market? And if you're like, it's so crazy,
Yeah.
it's not looking good for you.
Yeah, no, it's not the best answer you can get.
What do
um
you think the best answer to that question is?
Honesty. um so I mean I gotta this is what I'm
I
curious
like
what your
answering that
thoughts.
question with a question.
Yeah.
Depends on what you're trying to do. Is there something you're working on?
Yeah. Taylor, I thought you were going to put less pictures on realtor.ca to help drive them to yours.
I do. And you have to go to my property page to see the floor plans. And we
Yeah.
have additional information there.
How's that going so far? Do you have data? You're
No,
still working
but we're going
through
to
it?
get our pixel set up here right away. And that's going to be one step towards that.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, because I was just wondering, and what actually we also got a baseline because and this is tough because of like just the fluctuations with spring market and things like that. Um, is you have to be able to like say, okay, what's my number of inquiries through realtor.ca, for example? Has that gone up or down? But I know it also just goes up seasonally. So it's not a perfect, it's a harder one to kind of quantify the same way.
Hmm.
Um, but it'd be interesting if you had data of like average number of opt-ins in Edmonton compared to yours. But I don't think realtor.ca releases that data,
No.
which is a shame. Maybe I'll reach out to them and be like, can we get this? Working on a story. See if I can get that for you. But yeah, so the list, going back to it. So yeah, if someone asks how's the market. So I like your idea, like you ask them a question. I would sometimes because I like to use that as an opportunity to like show the authority.
Hmm.
So I might go into like it's great or it's hot instead of doing something like that. We kind of give some. I go for insight that they wouldn't have thought of. Like I always look for that opportunity to provide an interesting piece of insight or an anecdote or something that they'd be like, "Oh, I never would have considered or thought of that."
Mm.
So you're like, and that because that you have to be an expert and someone who's tuned in to have something like that available.
Yeah, I guess my take, like, so what you're talking about is an interesting take on something.
Yeah,
And my interesting take is, well, this is the most interesting real estate market we've seen because our market is normally being driven by oil, but this time
yeah,
it's affordability.
yeah,
So the way the market is heating up is actually different than many people would expect.
yeah. Which is a good take, right? Because it's a little bit different. It's showing it, and then I'd get into like the questions where you're trying to learn about them, right? Like it's almost like the hook of here's something interesting. And I mean, just by you being with them in person, you can probably already tell what stage they're going to be at
Yeah, what you're
relatively.
shooting for is to be interesting and interested.
Yeah,
You want to substitute the word informative with boring. If you're
yeah,
informative from your perspective, you are boring from their perspective.
yeah. And this is where like I always like the idea just from like a market is having stories and anecdotes ready for any like point you want to get across. Like this is what they talk to you about like when you're training to be a speaker. Is like you want to just collect stories that you can use in different situations. Like you talk to me enough to know that I repeat often the same stories about different topics. And it's because I'm so used to doing that now that it's like I'm hammering it home with this story. It's like I hear a good story, it's like, oh, that's gonna be perfect to get this point across.
But that's the idea, is
Yeah,
that story is the way to get information across in a
yeah,
very received way,
yeah,
right? Like we love to inform and educate by stories. This is what they mean when they talk about infotainment.
yeah.
A good story is fun. Like for me, what I really want people to know is I do things that you won't expect or hear of very often. But instead of just being like, yeah, we had a listing that had 57 offers and 195 viewings on opening weekend. I have this great story about a three-legged cat. And so I
Let's
start
hear
by
it.
saying, man, we had these people that are really worried about their cat. Like they have this little cat named Mew and he only has three legs. And they're like, what if these realtors coming for showings when you list our house, what if they let the cat out? And I make a joke. I'm like, well, the cat's probably not that fast. But more so, you should know that realtors
Yeah.
constantly run into this, and we're going to make great notes and put a little display in your house that says, don't let Mew out. And they're like, okay, that sounds great. Well, on opening day, they had 14 showings and they came home to three cats. What? Three cats? Well, it turns out that their cat Mew, once like the fourth group showed up, Mew was out. So Mew was under a bed
Yeah.
somewhere. But these realtors, they kept seeing that there was like a little display for like, don't let the cat out. And then they would open the door, and lo and behold, there was a cat there. Now, later it would make more sense because we found out the owner of the house feeds the neighborhood cats. So over the weekend, it was ridiculous. We ended up having 195 groups through that house, and my assistant was having these crazy conversations. I'd walk by her office and I would hear her talking to an agent about counting the legs on the cats in order to differentiate between which ones were supposed to be there and not supposed to be there. It was a crazy time. Mew ended up fine. The people took Mew out the second
Yeah.
day for the weekend because 195 viewings, it was crazy. But that family got 57 offers and set the neighborhood record.
It work. I mean, that type of story works. And then the other one I do is I try to tie it in with how can it lead right into other lessons for them, right? Like I love when I hear a good story, I was like, oh, like I remember as I was at an event. Have you ever done like because you were from the software, did you ever do like the UX studies where they like watch people use it and then
Oh,
do
user interface
those?
studies.
Yeah, and then or UI studies, but yeah, and then but then they'll even do the like one of
No,
my
UX is
favorite.
user experience, so the
Yeah,
same thing. Yep.
yeah. So then they do so the UX and UI there is a slight difference, but pretty much the same. Um, but I was at one and he was telling me, and then he used the story of cargo cults. To just like, but he was just talking to a cargo cults very anecdotally, and it was like the second he said it, I was like, I can use that, and I was like, can
Tell
I
me
steal
more. What
that?
is a cargo cult?
Okay, this is and I now even tie it into my history degree because I like to make jokes on stage that like, a couple times during this presentation, I'm gonna use history analogies so I can justify having paid for this degree I've never used. So I like to people relate to that one and they like it generally. It's usually received very well. But like cargo cults dating back to World War II, when the Americans were advancing towards Japan, they had to like obviously set up supply chains along different islands. And on these islands were a lot of indigenous tribes that had never seen 20th century technology before. So all they'd see is, them come in, someone would radio in, the next day a cargo plane would come with everything they needed. And sometimes stuff for the native tribes just to like keep them happy and cooperative. And then when the war was over, they all left. And now these tribes were like, and I really like that plane that comes and brings us stuff. So they started building out the infrastructure. So they'd build out a runway. They'd build out a control tower, but like it was out of bamboo. They'd like take bamboo and carve it into a walkie-talkie. And then they'd be like, all right, I need this, this,
Whoa.
and this. And then they'd wait for this plane to come.
Is that
But
like the
obviously,
crucifix to a cargo cult? The
pretty much,
walkie-talkie, like the air traffic
yeah.
controller, like
But
radio?
they'd kept waiting for the planes to came and they never came because they don't understand the underlying technology that made it work. And then I go, and that's how most of you market your business. And so I just found that way in of like giving this ridiculous story
I
and then
totally
just turn it.
agree.
Yeah.
With their like, you look at all the marketing activities that most agents do, and then you're like, okay, where's the planes?
Yeah.
No planes?
Literally.
Ever? None
Yeah.
of you have ever seen a plane? Okay, what are you doing all this for?
And it's funny because Daryl's actually here in the audience. Hi, Daryl. Daryl King. So I use him now as the next step of this analogy sometimes. Because when I started Just Homes 10 years ago, like early online marketing days, he called me into his office and he was like, we're interested in having you work on our marketing. But if we do it, we have to be exclusive with you because anything we ever do, everybody copies what we did, which is
Hmm.
a very common experience of every top producer of like, if I get this CRM, they buy this CRM. I buy this website, they buy this website. And everyone copies it. My
Totally.
favorite part is because it was still pretty early in the online world, Daryl's still figuring it out. And he's like, nothing we've actually done yet has worked. But everyone was copying everything he did. And I was like, that's cargo cult marketing. He's like, you see something, you just assume because that person's successful, they know. Like, but Daryl's
You
building his
think
business
that
on other
because
things that work great.
you're thinking this is cause and effect,
Yeah. But it's
where
just
it's,
happened he was still figuring this part out.
but
This
he's
part was a
figuring
well-run
this
machine.
out with a budget that will bury the people that
Yeah.
follows him.
Yeah, and like a drive that most people don't have and things like that, right? But it's
Yeah.
I always love that of like everyone copies everything I do because like the online's very public. But it's never even worked for me yet. I'm still figuring it out.
But that's the truth of most real estate marketing
Yeah.
is that the highest consumption is by other agents,
Yeah. And
right?
well, this is I mean it's the
Like
problem in
like if
real
you want to
estate
know how
with
to get blocked from my Instagram,
yeah.
start participating in weird ways on my polls and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
I put up a poll that was part of a like, hey, we have a listing coming in this neighborhood. Do you want updates? And I had two agents say no. And I'm like, hey, whatever value you guys were
You don't
getting
have to
following me
respond.
around, like it's gone now because I'm blocking you.
Yeah. It's easy. But like this is also just a huge problem that is in the real estate industry. And it's like why you end up with influencers that like play an Instagram or play a realtor on Instagram but don't sell any houses, but everyone thinks they do, is they start getting engagement from the industry. And they're like, oh, look how much engagement this got. I just gotta do more. I gotta do more. I gotta do more. And then they end up optimizing for an account that only has the industry on it. And they get 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 plus followers, and not a single client is following them.
Yeah, good job making a job
Yeah.
out of people that won't pay you.
Well, that's why they have to either sell a course on how to do what they did or
Recruit
um,
them.
downline. Yeah. Or some will
Be
get
my
into like office
downline.
management, stuff like that. But like the most common thing we see is like, I can tell you when those people start blowing up and you see the list of people engaging, it's all industry. You're like, you're going to launch a course soon in the next year or two, or you're going to join something with a downline.
And if it's working, great.
Yeah. You
right?
can make
Like
good money on it. Like recruiting's
Tom
hard. If you're
Story.
good at it, do it.
Tom Story makes money doing video,
Yeah.
and he has a video course. Nice
Yeah.
match, right?
But see now, Tom, I
But
would look at different than
success
this.
leaves cues, or the
But
success leaves clues.
a lot of his content though is attracting consumers. He does have the stuff that like realtors go, but like for example, like his show, which gets 1 million+ views, that a lot of realtors don't watch that. Like the primary audience is consumers for a lot of what he does. Like he's nailed that part. And because of that, he's become someone people want to learn video from. He doesn't create videos for realtors. He creates video for consumers, and then he becomes an influencer because he put the proof in. He look how much business he does and how fast
Hmm.
he's grown. Like that's the successful look at video marketing where it's like, yeah, you can blow up doing videos for agents having never sold anything. And that's what a lot do, but it's they focus on it. But at least they have to switch to a downline or recruiting model at that point. And I have no problem with that unless you're lying about being a top producer at that point.
I'm
Because you
number
see that a
one of
lot.
everything.
Fastest growing agent in town. I've won awards for my social media. I'm like, no, you won one of those like awards where they're just trying to get you to repost it because you have a lot of followers. Like you know the ones where it's like, hey, this company said I'm the fastest growing. Like 3 years ago, I got that award as one of the best real estate agents on social.
Hmm.
Like, way to look at the profile of the person. But it's because they'd see like real estate magazine. I triggered whatever keyword in their search, and I had the right like engagement triggers or whatever that they were using. And they I was briefly on a list, and I messaged them. And I was like, yeah, you're gonna want to take that down.
Yeah, I once got nominated as an innovator,
Yeah, I've done
and
that.
then I remember getting there, and somebody asked me, "So, what did you innovate?" It may have been because I was getting a lot of attention.
Yeah. I
Because
one of my
now I
favorites.
have innovated things, but at that time,
Yeah.
I was probably just pretty popular.
I've had something like that. Like I got nominated, or sorry, I won a top 100 most influential people in real estate. And this was not for Canada either. This was globally.
Whew.
But to get the award, you got a free ticket to their event in Vegas, but the surrounding stuff you had to buy was like 4,000 US. And I was
Hmm.
like, I'm not. One, there is no scenario today where I'm globally speaking top 100 most influential. Zero. But
You've been
then
on stage with Gary V.
I've been on the same stage, not at the same time. It's different.
Because if you did and it was your first time, you would have had to fight.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I have met him though. Super nice guy. And I've actually had a phone call with him. If you go back to like Daily V, or remember that show he had, like Daily V, like he's like his first vlog. I'm on like episode 30 something. True story. That was back in the day. Where was I going? I lost my train of thought. I'm good at
That's all
that.
right. We are talking
Yeah.
about email lists,
Yeah.
and you can talk to us too. If you have done an email list or doing an email list, I could probably use your notes. I'm starting one. We're
Yeah.
going to break a dozen. Um, and I think that your first point was start with people you know, and we're going to do that. So we're going
Yeah.
to email our database. I think that in my database, I probably have a few thousand email addresses. So that will be seeing what we get from that. We'll bring that to you
Yeah.
next week.
And I before you go like big expanding past that, like you want to get that with a few sends into that group too, because you're also now building trust with your domain as one because those are the people most likely to open your emails going forward. Because like if you just now start adding terrible quality emails to the list and then send it out to them en masse, you're gonna start like becoming a less trusted domain. It gets opened less. So if you instead do, okay, I'm gonna take like the 12 people you have and they're all opening it, you probably have like an 80+% open rate. And then you go to the bigger list and then a slightly bigger list, but it's the people who know you. And if you're still able to keep that like 60% plus open rate and then able to keep that going, now when you start adding more colder people, it's more likely to be in their inbox because now the domains trust you more. So
Hmm.
it's that little piece there of like, it's good for two reasons, but that domain trusted ability part is important for you. So it's
All
making
right.
sure you're having that in there. So like I would do that and then look because like for example, Facebook lead ads, great way to add volume to the list. Fantastic. But that's a lower engaged subscriber. So like with REM, we can measure the like source and how engaged that person is on our email list. A Facebook lead ad is the least engaged new subscriber. And on the other end, someone who registered to attend a webinar typically ends up as our most engaged subscribers. So we value webinars for new people more than like our lead ads. So it's looking, okay, where are they coming in and being able to track that. But again, for a real estate business, it can be a different consideration, right? Like it might not, like for us, the engaged subscriber is half the value because it's like that's what we're selling to advertisers is engaged subscribers. For you, it's still the other day sale. So where am I getting those like replies and conversations from?
Mhm.
So being able to track that is important.
Okay. So that's where we'll start with our insiders is to get the people that we know and then to kind of iron out our email list so that we feel as though it's a reasonable quality.
Yeah,
We have some open rates to talk about, and then we're going to continue putting it on the outside. So now people can find it if they want to find it. They can get it on our property pages and the banner of our
yeah,
website. We're going to start introducing it into our monthly to our database as well.
yeah.
So we'll just start putting it in some places, and then in the weeks coming, we'll then know enough about it to start talking about it on the outside.
No. And I would for the next like for a little while too, like in that email that's going out as you're adding more people to it, ask for feedback directly. Just like reply to this email. Which parts of this are you finding the most valuable? Is there any extra things you'd like to see? Like, would you like to know sold prices too? Like, would you like an extra email that tells the sold price on it? Find out that info. Or like maybe there's the two parts of the insider list, right? Like there's the I'm sending you updates when they come on, but every Friday I'm going to send you everything that's sold. That's notable.
Interesting. So, what we do now is when we sell the house that we were giving them inside information on, we send them information on how many offers and things like that.
Yeah.
Again, hoping we can get hand raisers.
Yeah.
And then what we haven't done yet, but what's on the plan is for us to also do a how it went. So case
Yeah.
study with more kind of a storyline as well as details, hopefully including a client review
Yeah.
so that we can I'm hoping that we can hook them with good stories. So that's going to be one of the things that I work on with a custom GPT
Yeah.
that is drawing from the part of the database from Don Miller.
Yep. I do like Don's stuff. But for the like I would also just consider not just your listings, like a here's just the notable solds across the board,
So
right? Of
that's
like,
something that I want to do more of.
yeah,
Right now, the way that I do it is in my monthly. So the monthly has a bomb that is a recording of me and our team talking
yeah,
about like what we're seeing in real estate, not just the stats, more than that. And then we also have notable sales. So the highest price sales in Edmonton, Sherwood Park, and St. Albert.
yeah.
And that way we get continually recognized for them without actually having advertised them. So it ends up being like just a benefit to be associated with the winners.
But like I would, because I know you want to like really go in Sherwood and St. Albert, right? Is like, what if you just did a price report where it's like every Friday, we're just gonna send you a sold? Because in a hot market, that change like market changes fast, right? Like a month from now,
Mhm.
especially in the spring season, is that like is something sold 28 days before that? Is it as relevant anymore? I know in Toronto when it was hot 28 days ago, there could be a 5% price difference already, right? Like it's, you gotta be fast on it. So for the area you want to like become more known on and be more of a farm type area, it's like, let's go deeper and here's everything you need to know with my interpretation of what that means for you. It's like as they're setting new bench price marks. So what, and you either go by like set a new high water mark just by sheer price, or you go by price per square foot. This also depends like the data you have, how easy it is to pulled out of
Hmm.
that.
And I like talking about the stories inside of the stats. That's
Yeah,
something that I find I recognize patterns really well.
yeah,
So I'm thinking about that as an expansion. I've got so much on the go right now
yeah. You
that
don't add
I'm
too
going to
much.
have to like work through these. So I make a lot of notes and we revisit them as we go. But
Yeah,
right now, the things that we're going to look to hit before next week is to talk to our own database in more valuable ways about this list to load it up from there. And that's really
yeah,
what I want people to do in general is like, how can you nudge all of this forward every week
yeah.
but
You,
choose targets better. Like we are making a more defined list. We know what the goals are. We know who we're trying to talk to. We know
yeah.
what we're trying to talk to them about, and we know how we want the results to look.
And once you have more people on the list, content for social, and then we'll put money behind it with ads and talk about it in the newsletters is congratulations, John and Sarah, who just bought this home they saw on our insiders list. And I feel like, what the hell's the insider list? Right? It's that, they were able to get, so you kind of just start teasing it and
Social
making people
proof.
do what is that? But, and then in the newsletters that go out, like the insider list, it's like, here's the latest one. By the way, congrats to John and Sarah who bought the one we shared last week on the insider list. And you're starting to show that, oh, this is driving real results for people. Because you're going to
Mm,
get all the, first, you're going to get like other buyers who are like, shit, yeah, no, this is valuable. I want it. Then you get sellers who be like, oh, I'm seeing proof of him selling these homes very quickly on here.
hmm.
And even if it's like that didn't necessarily buy because of the list, it's like congrats to these ones who found another home that we talked about on here. And just seeding that in there.
So this is something that we're going to continue going forward with as we kind of use me as the guinea pig.
Yeah,
So if you tuned in previously, you saw Andrew give me some feedback on my website. We ended up building out the website. That website is bringing us cash now. So that website is live. The contacts work. I made the zaps. They drive right into my CRM. So those are going. So now we're going to start to dial this forward a little bit. The other thing that was on my goal list was making this insiders list. I'm behind on my goals on this insiders list. I should be closer to 45 people taken. I'm breaking that dozen. We just came up with an idea just now that's probably going to change this outcome and bring me back on track.
yeah,
So
easily.
that's really exciting. And then as we go forward, we're talking a little bit more about how we're going to market property. That's going to be a future episode to talk about like where you allocate budgets that sell houses and where you allocate budgets that get you new clients. Um, and we're just going to continue building this out. So you can see that right now I'm starting where many people start. I've got a homemade website that I did myself. I'm also working ideas that are very accessible. But as
Yeah,
a real estate team, we almost sell a house every other day. So I want you to see that we're going to try to put the dots really close together for how to do this and how you get there and build like real valuable things right in front of you.
yeah. And I'd be curious for the people who are here live. Um, if there was someone you'd like to like, if you were like, hey, for like a real estate team, I'd love to see how this person would help them or look at their stuff. We can bring guests on. So like I know Taylor too, like we've talked about this of like, is there someone you would like to hear from to help with your stuff?
Man,
And we'll
Mark
bring people
Ferris
in.
gave me an hour after our podcast. I
He's
talked
good,
about
eh?
this last time,
Yeah.
and his perspective on my business was really good.
Yeah. He's one of the people now we couldn't like Keith Roy's another one who's good like that,
Whew,
who
Keith is so spicy. That
gonna be
guy had
hard to get him for the next week, and then depending on how Monday goes, might be a while, or he'll be available right away. Um,
Yeah.
we'll see.
Cross your fingers, Keith. We got you,
Yeah,
buddy. Yeah.
yeah. So we'll for people who don't get that, he's running in the election, so he's gonna find out on Monday if he has a job or he's a realtor again.
I gotta say,
But
it's very rare that you don't see Keith win at things.
it's true, and I'm pretty curious how he's going. But I mean, a conservative in BC is not. It is an uphill battle.
But if it's
Um,
gonna happen anywhere, it's gonna be Whistler.
yeah, I'm very
Talk
curious
about
how he does.
fiscally conservative.
Yeah, but he should be good. And then worst case, he comes back to being a realtor, who does a very good team. So it's not a bad thing to fall back on.
Keith was one of the first realtors I saw pass the entrepreneur's test. And
Oh,
what we're
the
talking about,
for
yeah,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
That was something that was it was cool to watch as almost like he was like my upperclassman in the Richard Robbins community.
Yeah.
And that community is fantastic, by the way. Love
Yeah.
it. Love a
They got
lot of
some
the
great
people there.
agents.
It's so good. But Keith was one of the first guys to be like, okay, so now that we know you're good, now what? I'm like, okay. Like I just met you.
Yeah.
And he's like, you think that you're the only one who can be in the room with clients in order for you to win. And he really challenged those ideas. And that's part of what led me to lead production for the years that I did.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's interesting to see the phases, but Keith has
Like
got a great
him
perspective.
and Mark would be similar in terms of types of guys who, in 10 minutes of talking to you, could probably rip apart 80% of your issues.
Oh, Mark was so progressed that he was like, listen, here's
Yeah.
one thing on this one page of this book that is your next step, like
Yeah.
from profile. And he's not wrong.
Was it this book?
hmm
Yeah.
Yep.
I
Page
got that because he
190 near the
recommended it.
bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He recommended that book. I got it. I was like, oh, like I even from that conversation, I was like, oh yeah, I can see why you're doing what you're doing.
hmm
Like,
And that's also what I'm excited because I've changed my business quite a bit over the last year. I went from being out of production or semi kind of like mostly out of production
yeah,
for that year anyway, um, into coming back into it and looking at my business in building it in a different way.
yeah,
And I have to say, I'm excited about it. And I will be scaling up. I might even use that model this time because the
yeah,
last time that I built up in the type I did, to give you more context, I built a very great real estate team for a buyer's market.
yeah,
And now I'm rebuilding to fit our market now and fit the phase that I'm in, which is I am much more interested in production than I was when I had kids under, under 8 or under 7.
yeah. A little different. That's what now my kids are 3, 6, and 8. I'm doing like starting to get a little bit more breathing room, focus
Mhm.
back in more.
And it's exciting that like when I turn the lights back on, people respond, right? Like
Yeah,
I'm now booked to be speaking in August in Dallas with Tom Ferry. The getting to talk to interesting people, like being on AI Flash recently,
yeah,
that's what I remember from having my attention focused at real estate. And I'm excited to do that. Also, this opportunity, like meeting with you every week and actually sharing that with an audience and bringing guests on. This is a big part of my experience and it feels great.
yeah. And I'm curious. I want to take a temperature check soon on like where you are relative to your goals for the year. On track. Where are we? Then let's
Well,
try
I
and
know exactly. I do a
yeah,
video to my coach before all of our coaching sessions. And
yeah,
I covered this off. So right now, what I see is that we were not expecting to have a very strong first quarter because we were building so much, and now
yeah,
we're expected to be back on track.
yeah,
So by the end of May, I want to have taken 35 listings and we want to have sold like I think it's got to be close to 70 or 80 houses. So, taking a look at that, I can tell you that I would consider myself chase track. So we
okay,
look at things like on track, off track. If you're just trailing, it's chase track.
yeah,
And if you're ahead of the future goals, it's called top track. So we
yeah.
have a
Now you got to sit them
modification of
higher.
the EOS model.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that makes sense. Yeah, so we'll talk that more in depth maybe the end of May. We'll see where we are and then
Yeah, because we're going to go into
go from
business
there.
planning at the beginning of June. I
Yep,
run offset quarters so that they line up with the real estate world.
smart.
So
Yeah,
I'm going to meet with my team at the beginning of June because we all know the temperature is going to change at the end of June in real estate. That's like a natural time. So
yeah,
we like to plan before it changes, just like we meet in March, knowing that that the action is in April.
yeah. That's good. Yeah, because like it's so different for what you guys. Now we have to plan ours similarly based on your season, right? Because like, but it's slightly different. Is I know kind of right after Christmas, first couple weeks of January is when we're gonna get hounded with like new clients trying to like get ready for the year. But what I found since COVID is that regular timing has changed so much. Is like each year it changes the 2 or 3 week window. Sometimes it's like beginning of December, or sometimes it's mid-December, sometimes it's January. I've even had it pushed to February, which is a little nerve-wracking because like our usual influx of clients just didn't come one year. And we're
Hmm.
all like, oh, what did we screw up? Like, what did we do? The inbound's not coming the same way. And then it was like
Where are the
February
people?
1 hit. Yeah. And it was just like, oh, there they are. But yeah,
Yeah. It
part of the
reminds
fun.
me of like a party when you're there at like 9:30 and nobody's there. And you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh man, I chose the wrong place to be. Now
Yeah.
I'm stuck here with these four people." And then all of a
But you
sudden
get to
by
know them really
11,
well.
it is the most bumping party you've ever been at. And you're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so glad I didn't ditch."
Yeah. All right. So we're at 3 o'clock, which what that means for everyone here is you can stay on. We're going to keep talking. We're going to turn off the recording. If you're watching the recording, then come live next time and you can see this part because we go off camera and a little bit more casual, even though, we're so, formal the rest
We're
of the
so
episode.
buttoned up. Yeah.
Yeah, that now we're gonna go even more casual, and do that. So, I'm Andrew. That's Taylor. See you next week. All right, let me pause the recording.